Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen, and today we're going to be talking about the IKKI68 Aurora from Wuque Studios. Let's get into it. This board is a very interesting board. To get started, we had to talk about the layout. So it has forward navigation here, so it has a little bit more width. Some people may not like that. So I use home and then delete a lot. I don't really use insert. I typically make that print screen because I use print screen pretty frequently. I like the look. If you don't like the look, can't really convince you. It's a preference thing. This board directly competes with the Kara, the KBD67 Lite, the Bauer Lite, and any other $100 boards such as IKKI68 How does it compare? Well, they're all a little bit different. I think the IKKI68 Aurora's strengths are its compatibility, a lot of functionality, a lot of collectability, and the fact that you can adjust the gasket is really interesting feature. All right, before we get started, ethics statement, Wuque Studio did send this out for me for review. They didn't get to see the review before I posted it live. They didn't pay me. They just really wanted me to look at it and share with other people. I wanted to make the review because it competes with a lot of entry-level boards, and it's good to look at the features and figure out what's different about them. And with me getting a production unit, I'm able to send feedback back to Wuque so they can kind of fine-tune the board for the production run so everyone gets a better product. All right, let's talk about the build quality of this board. This is injection molded polycarbonate plastic, so it feels a little bit heftier in the hand than, let's say, the ABS plastic of the KBD67 Lite. It still feels pretty light, so it's a light board. Is plastic bad? One of my favorite boards is the plastic Wuque, dude. Nothing's wrong with plastic. Plastic lends itself to a deeper sound, personally, and it sounds less tinny and hollow. A plastic board, when well done, is actually better than an aluminum board for the sake of being aluminum. In this prototype unit, on the build stream, unfortunately, one of the kailh hotswap sockets were missing, so I had to solder that back in. Just wanted to mention that that's not going to happen in the production run, and if it does, Wuque Studios will take care of you. So with the build quality, if you look at the screws, there's actually like metal where the screw screws into. So there's threads, so there's less likelihood of these screws stripping in the polycarbonate plastic. This happens with a few plastic boards, especially the PC Thing 6.5. They actually had to put a little disclaimer, please don't over tighten your screws or else they'll strip and you'll no longer be able to close your board. So this board being injection molded rather than CNC'd, it's cheaper than something like a PC Wuque or a PC Thing 6.5. And I really like that for entry-level boards. So rather than being $200, $300, $400 with a high failure rate, they can actually achieve more units at a cheaper price and get it to more people. There is an option to buy an extra weight. I didn't get that with my unit. And in terms of the prototype, the polycarbonate plate felt a little rough, but it's just a prototype. Sound and feel. This, just like the KBD67 Lite, pretty thocky. It's really nice. In here are OA switches, so they are the PC top, unwipe bottom switches. They should be higher clack, higher pitched. Sounds pretty deep to me. To compare with the KBD67 Lite, that board is way thockier. If you want thock, go over there. Here, I really like the fact that I can change and tune the sound a little bit. It uses silicone case foam, it uses silicone plate foam, and there's multiple layers. And also there's silicone gaskets at the top and bottom. This is more of a traditional gasket mount. You can remove some of those gaskets to make it feel more flexible and make it feel more bouncy and adjust the sound. With less gaskets, it sounds less deep. So if you want to clack your sound, pull some of the silicone layers out, pull some of the gaskets out, and you can achieve that. In general, I like PC boards more than aluminum ones. I feel like aluminum boards, especially in the budget space, can sound kind of hollow, whereas lower cost PC boards can sound pretty full. So this board sounds pretty damn full. It doesn't sound hollow at all. Of course, this board uses screw-in stabilizers. We did use the OA stabs that are offered with the board, and I really like them because they're pretty wire pop resistant and they look cool. And like with any board that uses plate foam, when you add plate foam, you're gonna end up inhibiting the flexibility of the typing experience a little bit. So don't expect like the flex where it goes through the board if you're using a plate foam. You can take it out, of course. It's just an option, especially with hotswap. You don't have to desolder or anything. So try with and try without, see which one you like better. The design of the board is very essential. Like I said before, this is hit or miss. If you're like a CSGO low sense FPS player, you may have your mouse hit the board if it has that extra width. You know who you are. If you want as small of a board footprint as possible and you don't want to rotate too much, then you do that. And the badge is horizontal. Some people may not like that, but I like the fact that you can swap them out with anything. There's so many options on the Wuque website. It's really cool, man. So having a board that you can swap badges out makes it more collectible, makes you more likely to keep it rather than just use it for a little bit and then sell it off. And you can add a weight if you want to make it feel heavier, so you don't have to do that DIY mod with its higher weights like you would have to with the KBD67 Lite. And the fact that you can tune the sound and feel by changing the gaskets in the board is really nice. And one other thing, I'll show it on the stream, but there's so much compatibility here. You can, for the spacebar, you can do split spacebar. With the enter, you can do ISO enter, you can do split everything without having to solder. Typically, if you want different layouts, you're gonna have to solder and get a solder PCB. The way they were able to achieve this, however, they had to rotate some of the kailh hotswap sockets. So some of the switches are rotated to the left or right, or some are upside down. This didn't really translate to a different sound and feel or any kind of interference with cherry profile keycaps that I experienced, but that's something you probably wanna be aware of. So if you never tried split spacebar, you're definitely missing out. With the split spacebar on the right spacebar, the one I don't use personally, I can make that spacebar function, allowing me to be able to do function commands without having to move my hand. And like the KBD67 Lite, this board has Bluetooth options. If you're interested in Bluetooth, you can get that PCB with this board as well. So this board isn't without its problems. With this prototype unit, there's gaps between screws. It's all around the board. Maybe due to the gasketing being too large in the prototype. I remember talking with SeaKeep and they are working with adjusting the gasket and the silicone and all that to make sure it fits better. So this may exist in the prototype unit, but it should be fixed by the production unit. And with all the customization and all the options, it's a little bit more daunting for a beginner. So they may not know like, oh, should I use all the gaskets? Should I use less? Which one should I take out? And the plate silicone is a little fidgety with a little bit of interference, which should be revised by the production run, but was a little difficult for me to install. So just keep that in mind as well. And the biggest thing is the board is wide. If you want a skinnier board that takes up less of a footprint, you may not want to go with a 68 key like this. You may want to go down to a 65% or 60%. And of course, having too many options, they might make the board more expensive. You might want to buy a few badges, buy brass weight, and buy this or that with OA stabs and OA switches, then your bill may be a little high, but that might be a personal problem. So who's this board for? It's for someone that's a beginner that wants some customization, that wants to test boards without having to buy too many of them. Another board that tried to achieve this was the Constellation, having different mounting styles all within one case, but that one was a little expensive at $700, $800. This is way more affordable, so you can tune the sound, figure out if you like the clack, figure out if you like the thop, figure out if you like stiff, figure out if you like flexible. You can do all that with this one board. So when they did the GB, they had the mint option like I have here, the charcoal, but you even had Mizu and even other colors. It's really nice to have a lot of options. If you want more compatibility and adjustability and collectability, then I would go with this. Would I get the NK65EE over this? No, the NK65EE uses plate mount stabs and those kind of suck. Also, the plate on the NK65EE is so freaking tight that when you even put filmed alpacas in there, they will not come out with you damaging the top housing. I experienced this on the V2 and the EE. And another EE. And this board has an option for the weight if you want to make it a little heavier. So there's a lot of things you can do with this board. But really, if you don't like the layout and you don't like the look, then you might as well skip the video. I typically like the 65-ish layout, so having the different options, at least for a little while, is fun to me. But you may not feel that way. You may think it's kind of bloated, you may think it's kind of ugly. It's all up to you. It's a hobby of preference. And that's the end of the review. Please consider giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, or clicking the notification bell. It really helps the channel out, and it's free. And I'll see you in the next video.